What is up, tubers? Tio here, Simplistic Fishing, coming back at you tonight to talk to you a little bit about fishing. It's been a while since I've been out on the lake. I finally got a chance to go out last weekend. We were actually fishing one of our little local Ray Hubbard tournaments. Tons of fun, caught lots of fish, and I wanted to share with you guys our experience that we had out there and what we did to have some success in the tournament. We didn't have a huge bag, but it was a big enough bag to get us a win, so we're super happy about that. So let's go ahead and let's talk about it. Summertime fishing, it can be tough out there. Hopefully I can give you guys some pointers. Let's roll. Bye. All right, guys, so as I mentioned, we went out last weekend, finally had a chance to go out and go fishing, and we went down to Cedar Creek Reservoir. Not sure if you've ever been down there before or not, but this lake is known for lots of weekend activity, right? Weekend boaters, lots of waves and just nonsense going on, and it has a ton of docks. So if you love to go dock fishing, you definitely want to go down to Cedar Creek. It is the bomb for fishing docks, and we've had some really good success down on Cedar Creek. You know, we've never had the 20-pound bag, but we've had a few already in tournaments of 18, 19-pound bags, and they've always been really high up there. One of them got Landon them got second place in regionals with 18-something pounds. We had like a 17-pound bag in one of those big, huge tournaments, like came media bass or something like that, that almost got us a check. And then we also had another 18-pound bag when Landon was by himself. We actually won the tournament back in, I think it was like an April time frame, right after that huge freeze that we had. So a lot of success down at Cedar Creek, had some history there. Honestly, when we go down there to pre-fish, though, it's always been a little bit tougher for some reason. And then tournament day comes and it becomes a lot better. Not only that's just getting used to the lake, it just takes us a while to adjust to the lake or whatever's going on. But hopefully, some of the things that we've learned I can share with you guys, and make it a better thing for you guys. So let's talk about just pre-fishing. Well, pre-fishing in general, it was stinking hot. You guys know that. July 4th week, the week of July 4th, it was brutally hot. And then it finally started to temper down. But the problem was with work and everything else going on, my buddy and I that fished together, we did not have really time, nor did we really have the really urge to go fish in 110-degree heat. It just didn't sound like something we wanted to do. And plus, it's driving an hour and a half away. Just when you get old, you start thinking, man, that crap's not worth it. I'll be fine. So, of course, usually when that happens and you're going to a tournament, you guys have heard me talk about this several times, let this not be a good lesson. Usually when that happens and you don't pre-fish, you get spanked almost every single time. But every once in a while, you get lucky like we did this weekend and you're able to pull something out. But we were only able to pull it out because we had been to the lake so many times. I fished so many times down on Cedar Creek that I was comfortable fishing down there, and pretty much any time of the year because we fished it so many times. So that definitely helped us for sure. And then my buddy Shannon, he also had some good ideas as well, which definitely helped us out huge come tournament day. So as far as like pre-fishing, we weren't able to get out on the lake, which that might happen to a lot of you guys. You get out there, and because of the work schedules that we have and the regular jobs that we have, we can't just go fish all the time. Plus we have family duties as well. And so sometimes you can't go pre-fish. But just because you can't pre-fish doesn't mean that you can't prepare for the tournament while you're sitting at home behind the desk or looking at your phone. Number one is obviously right behind me on my hat, everything I talk about, Simplistic Fishing. We break the lake down for you. So we will tell you, here's where all the rock is. Here's where the key offshore areas are that you should look at based on the contours. Here's where we found debris. Here's where we found some humps. Here's where we found some trees. So you go out and you do all of that planning before you ever get there, which we did, and which I've done several years before, so I already have a pretty good history there. So as far as that goes, what I was really looking for is, one, I was looking for anything offshore that we could find, which there's not a ton of offshore stuff on Cedar Creek, but there are a couple different areas. But I was looking for, I needed, maybe not even necessarily offshore, like way offshore, but just needed to get like 10 foot or more, because my guess was, it's super hot, the water's super warm, those fish are going to be getting really close down to the bottom, they're going to be getting a little deeper. So let's kind of target that 10 to 15 foot range. So that was kind of my idea. Then the second idea was we need to definitely make sure that we're fishing around shade. So shade, whether that be from being so deep like we just talked about, shade from a bridge could be huge as well, shade from the docks. So when you're going out to fish these tournaments in the heat, you especially down there, you got a little bit of hills, nothing crazy, but you at least got a little bit. And so you can plan your day to where you're always fishing in the shade. And that is really, really key, because if you're out there just fishing in the sunlight, number one, it's going to kill you, and you're going to get tired of fishing in the sunlight. It's going to burn you up, drain you, and you're going to get tired of fishing. You're not going to be able to make it the entire tournament day. And two, it's where the fish like, right? That's where the cooler water is. So shade is absolutely critical, whether that be shade from depth, so they get deep enough to where they're out of the sunlight, or whether that be shade from cover like docks and things like that. So pre-planning, that's what we were looking for. One, shade. We were also looking for, like I said, bridges. The second thing that we were really looking for was really rocks. If we could find any rocks, we knew that the bass are going to be attracted to the rocks. That was kind of our whole thing as we were going through the high school thing with my son Landon, is, really focused on rocky areas. It was almost like everybody says, find the grass, find the bass, and that's true. But find the rock and find the bass too. It doesn't make any sense, doesn't rhyme, but it works. So if you can find the rock, you can typically find some bass. Now, does that mean you're going to catch giants? No. Well, there are going to be some giants there, maybe every once in a while, but the key is just getting yourself around fish that want to bite, and then you can start figuring out the key areas where maybe the larger fish tend to hang out. So anyways, I'm just rambling, but what we would do then is we would go out on Google Earth, which I've already done, right? Go to Cedar Creek, pull up the Cedar Creek one, check the box over on the left-hand side, take it down to where it only shows me rock, and then I'm going to look at those docks that have rocks. And so any of them that have the rocks either out towards the end of the pillars or even towards the inside, towards the seawall, I'm going to really pay attention to those docky areas that have the rocks. And you guys know where those spots are. Star Harbor is loaded with rocks all around the outsides of those docks, and that's what makes them such a productive area to go fish. But there's several other areas that aren't like community holes like that one that are out in the lake that you can check out. So you go in, you turn your filter on for rocks, now you know where all the rocks are, now you kind of start backing into it, right? So yeah, there might be some rock there, but there's nothing around it in the whole entire area. Well, probably don't waste your time there. But if you've got rocks and docks and there's some debris, boom, now you've got something that you might be able to get a pattern off of and figure out why you go out there. So second thing would be look for the rocks, right? I told you look for the shade, look for the bridges. And then the third thing really is going to be I'm looking for depth, right? We talked about the offshore stuff, but I'm looking for ledges where there's drop-offs. Maybe it comes way off the bank and then drops way off into 10, 15 foot, something like that. I need that depth. Definitely in order to, for summertime, that's just where they are. Are they going to be up shallow? Yes, there's some fish up shallow, but most of them are going to be around vegetation and things like that, which you don't have a ton of in Cedar Creek, at least in the areas that we were fishing. So we really had to fall back on looking for the shade, looking for the rocks, finding that cover that produces that shade as well. And then any areas that have some depth with maybe some kind of contour, a ledge or a drop or something like that, that's going to make it even more productive. So we did the mapping, right? We only had about 5 spots, I think, that we had planned out. Our original plan was, we'd probably go down to the dam, start there with some top waters, then we'd work our way back, hit a couple of these docks, and then fish around some of the bridges as well. And that was kind of our general plan going into it. And then we decided, the dam thing, let's just knock that off. It's probably not going to work. It's probably too late in the year to do that. It's probably just not where we want to go. With the other spots are hotter. We don't want to lose those spots to other people in the tournament. So we skipped the dam off, and we immediately decided that we were going to start around the bridges. We'd start around the bridges, and then we'd work our way to these other dock areas, which is what we did. I'll talk about it a little bit later. We started at the bridge, caught a few fish, then moved on, caught a few more fish at the docks with the rocks. Then we kind of hit a dry spell. Then we panicked. We went right back to the bridge area where we caught those fish at. We started catching some fish. We started noticing people watching us and things like that. And I promise you, I'm not lying. We stayed there from probably 9:30, 10 o'clock all the way until weigh-in. We just stayed at that one spot. We knew it. It was summertime. If we found the fish, we had to stay there. We had already left. The fish that we caught when we left were not helping us at all. They were small keepers. They helped us in the morning, but we were able to do a lot better. So long story short is, in the summertime, and you guys have heard 1,000 people say this, when you find the fish, do not leave the fish. And I believe that's why we did so well in this tournament, because it was very difficult to find the fish, and we were very, very blessed and very lucky that we knew at least where a group of fish were. And so our best bet was to just sit there and milk that group of fish and hope that we could get a high enough weight out of that group of fish in order to win the tournament. The key thing was we knew we could get 5 out of there because we had already caught 2 or 3 there early in the morning. And so when we went back, we were confident we could get a couple more. And we already had 5 going into it. So we were going back with 5 fish into a spot where we had already caught a few that morning. So we were confident. And then once we caught a couple more, we culled out a couple more, it was like, hey, let's stay here. Plus, we were around a bridge. Bridges are key areas. We had a ledge that was close to us. That was kind of the key thing that was getting us those bites. And then we also had the shade from the bridge as well, which was really, really key. All right, so that's kind of what we did. That's how we planned it out, right? If you're planning out for a hot summer bass tournament, or if you're just going out to have fun, look for the rock. Definitely find the rock. Focus on your offshore stuff. And focus on shade. Shade, 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 shade. Shade from offshore or shade from cover above, docks, things like that. It's going to be absolutely critical for this next month. All right, so let's switch gears real quick and let's talk about how I was prepared going down to this tournament for what I thought I was going to catch fish on. So the first thing, you get all excited in the tournament. And you're ready to roll, right? You're tying everything up. You got your new line on. You're so excited, and everything pretty much that you tie on the night before, you end up cutting off the day of the tournament and putting something else on because something else ends up working that you never thought would. That's at least the way most of our tournaments go. Not all of them, but most of them. So I started off trying to figure out what that key bait was going to be. So my first thing was I put on a jig, just a 3/8 ounce jig, black and blue. I was like, all right, I'm going to use that. I'm just going to drag it around, flip it around dock posts, flip it around bridge pillars, things like that, and see what I can catch. So I had that one tied on. So that would be my number one. These aren't going to be in any order. That would be my number one thing that I had, though. But I'll tell you the order that I had them in, though. But the jig was probably number 3 in the order. The second was I was going to tie on a bigger shaky head. So this is just a larger shaky head. I think it's a 5/8 ounce. And I was going to drag that around as well, and my thought was this is going to get me a bigger bite. I may not get as many bites, but with this bigger shaky head, I'll probably get a pretty good sized bite. Newsflash, nothing. Didn't catch a single fish off that one. I guess I should go back and tell you about the blue jig. Now the blue jig did come through. I flipped it down at a pillar down by the bridge, flipped it down there, felt her jerk on it, hooked her up. She was maybe 3 pounds, 3.5 pounds. Not a huge fish, but in this tournament, 1535 won the whole tournament. So the 3-pounder was a pretty nice fish for the day. So that black and blue jig actually got it done. So I was proud that the lure that I tied on, I actually caught one of our keepers with. So super happy about that. Now, let's keep moving. Next up, what I thought would be my tried and trues. Number 1 was going to be the shaky head, and that was either going to be that's always the 1/4 ounce shaky head. You guys have heard me talk about it a lot. I'll usually rig it up with the brush hog, or I'll do the zoom worms, the fatties and stuff like that. I love all that stuff, and this is my number 1 go-to bait, without a doubt, hands down. If I could only use one bait in the world, it'd be a shaky head brush hog. And then that shaky head zoom worm is probably, Mad Finesse worm is probably my 2 favorite shaky heads, my most confidence baits that I have. So I started off throwing that, and I caught 2, I think. That was in the morning. One of them was a dink, and the other one was a little squeaker, but it was a keeper. So this one was a success. The shaky head was a success. Just dragging it around, wouldn't do any popping or anything, just kind of dragging it around. Then, after we sit there for a while, and I started to get bored by dragging that shaky head around, because I think I have a little bit of ADD or something, I just can't sit still for very long, I was like, you know what, excuse me, we're out on a little bit of a ledge here. This thing went from I think it was 5 foot, and then you would come out and you would see it, and then it would just drop. It would drop all the way down to, I think, 15 or 16 foot. So what I did was I got on the boat, and I lined up the boat with the ledge. So the ledge is like this, right? It's coming off, and I lined the boat up right there on the edge of where that, I'm trying not to hit myself with this crankbait, But let's say the ledge is coming down like this. I put the boat right here. So I'm casting across the ridge, right where the drop is, right here. So I line the boat up there. First cast, throw it out there, goes, real good, beautiful cast and everything. Hits the water, I reel down, I feel it bump a rock, and next thing you know, boom, got tagged. 3.5 pounder on the Strike King 6XD. Not something that I throw a ton. I just happened to throw it that day because where we were in the boat positioning, the depth was perfect, and I was kind of tired of throwing the shaky head. That ended up producing, I think, the one of the best fish or the second best fish. I threw that a bunch more throughout the day. I did not catch a single other fish, but that was all you need, right? You only need 5 for those tournaments. So I didn't catch anything else in that shaky head. So then the day progressed, and we kept throwing the shaky heads. Sorry for walking around here. The day progressed, we kept throwing shaky heads, and slowly but surely the bite just started turning off. Probably around 11:30, 12, the bite just went and it was just dive bombed. You could not get a bite on a shaky head. They wouldn't touch the crankbait. They wouldn't touch the jig. They basically wouldn't touch anything. It was getting frustrating, and it was almost like, do we leave and try to find fish when we know it's going to be super tough everywhere else? Do we stay here and just fight through this and hope maybe another band of fish come through and we get lucky? What should we do? And if you know me, I do not really particularly care for using this little wand right here. I have a name for it. You guys have all heard it, little fairy wand. I'm not a particular fan of using the fairy wand, but I'm starting to become a real big fan, really, really quick. So we're out there fishing, and of course, the bite's super slow and it's sucky and not much is going on. I think we had those 2 3-pounders in there, and the other 3 were very small, something like that, right? Just not much going on. 6, 8, 10, we had about 12 pounds, maybe 12 pounds, maybe more like 10 pounds. We had some small ones in there. And so I decided, desperate times calls for desperate measures. Sometimes you got to go do things that are uncomfortable, even though they're right, even though they're uncomfortable to you, they're right. People have told you, look, this is what you need to do when you get in those conditions. And you guys have heard it 1,000 times, right? The drop shot is your friend. Get comfortable with the drop shot. The drop shot can save the day, blah, 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 blah. So I at least had the drop shot tied on, had no intentions of throwing it. But I decided, you know what? The fish aren't biting at all. I'm throwing all this other stuff. I've worn them out. They've seen it 1,000 times. Let's try something different. So what I did was I tied on just my normal little drop shot rig here. Let me get it out unhooked here so you guys can see it. But I've got just a real small, probably 1/8 ounce weight on the bottom of it. And then I nose hook it. And I used a Robo Worm, Morning Dawn, Aaron Martin. So there you can see it's kind of nose hooked there. It's kind of messed up because it's been on my rod, but you can see it nose hooked it. I threw that sucker in, and as soon as I threw that in, dum 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 dum, and I sat there and I'd try to set the hook and I'd miss him, and I'd throw it back in there again, dum 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 dum, again and again and again, and then I hooked. Maybe like 2 of them, and they ended up being like 10, 12-inch bass. They're real small bass. I'm still happy though. I finally got some action. Finally got something to bite, right? I hadn't had a bite in forever. Threw it back out there. One hammers it. It's another 3-pounder. We got to cull that one out, which was awesome. And then proceeded for the rest of the day. Of course, there's only like 2 or 3 hours that we had left from 12 to 2. Proceeded to throw this drop shot the rest of the day and cull out every fish that we had in there except for those 2 larger ones. So we culled out 3 more, all off of this little tiny baby drop shot on this little fairy wand, and it got the job done. So the moral of the story is never leave fish to find fish, right? That saved our hiney. And the second thing would be, stay open-minded. Throw stuff that you're uncomfortable with. I'm uncomfortable with this. I'm going to get comfortable with it because it actually saved the day and it got us the win. Then the last thing would be, if I don't lose my train of thought here, as far as, what we were talking about, I'm almost like a Biden thing going on here. No, I'm just kidding. I shouldn't have brought that up. Never brought up politics. Just ignore that I said that. Anyways, the drop shot, keep an open mind, focus on the shade, do things that you're uncomfortable with, and just, make sure that you try different things. Don't just go with what you threw on. Keep an open mind, and I think you guys will be good. I totally screwed up my whole train of thought bringing in that Biden thing, so Wish I wouldn't have done that. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and finish the video before I get myself in trouble. Guys, go out, tie you on a drop shot this summer. It's going to be really, really good for you guys. I think you're going to love it. It's going to produce you some small fish, but it'll also produce you some game winners. So don't forget to do that. That black and blue jig is still solid. The shaky head's good as well. If you can find the ledges and the humps and things like that, focus on your crankbaits. Those are going to be key for you as well. And don't forget the money bait, that 1/4 ounce shaky head with the brush hog or just any type of worm on the back of it can really, really get the job done when nothing else works. Until next time, guys, I hope you catch your PV. Take it easy.